Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, we got an article from Serbia and it's very revealing. Nothing new over there in a way of its alliances and friends, if you know what I mean. This article comes from Sputnik and it's from today, the 20th of October 2022. This is the title. Belgrade will not sanction Russia until Serbia's existence threatened, President Vučić stated. So Belgrade will not impose sanctions on Russia until the very existence of Serbia is threatened, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said on Thursday. And I'm quoting, "As long as there is no existential threat to Serbia, to its citizens, we will not impose sanctions. We will pursue an independent policy, which we have defined by decisions of the Security Council," Vučić said in a televised appearance on the TV Prva broadcaster. And I'm quoting this guy. "If we find ourselves in such a situation, if I see and understand that we are faced with an existential threat, then I will address the citizens of Serbia and tell them that we must do so. You are asking me whether this moment has come. I think it has not. I am proud that for 240 days we have been pursuing an independent policy." End quote. The president added that he, and I'm quoting, is not looking for an excuse to impose sanctions, saying that he can find 5 million reasons not to do so. Wow. So he's not looking for an excuse, but he can find 5 million reasons not to do so. And I'm quoting again, "I seek a moral and legally unimpeachable position for the country that I love the most and led by choice of its citizens," Vučić said. The president added that Serbia, against which the West has violated resolutions and the Charter of the United Nations on the Kosovo issue, is preventing the West from accusing Russia of violating international law in the current situation. On February 24th, Russia began a military operation in Ukraine, responding to calls for help from the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. Western countries responded by imposing comprehensive sanctions against Moscow, while also ramping up their military and financial support for Kiev. Serbia is among the countries maintaining a neutral position on the issue and not joining most restrictions on Moscow despite growing pressure from Brussels and Washington. In February 2008, Kosovo unilaterally declared independence from Serbia, and nearly 100 UN member states, I thought it was 102 or something, have since recognized its independence. Several countries, including Serbia, Russia, China, and Greece, have not, while some have withdrawn their recognition of Kosovo. Well, when you get burnt one time real bad, you lose faith in the credibility of those guys who come back at your door and say, "Hey, trust us again, be with us. You are our friend. You belong to into the European community. You are like us." No, I'm not. And that was shown in 1999. Each country has it's called national conscience. That's how we call it, at least where I come from. And the national conscience is shaped by history, by events. And each time you have a, little scuffle with someone, that gets an imprint on your national conscience. And if that interaction was positive, then obviously we act like, how should I put it, like organisms, like humans, obviously, with memory and with feelings, because societies are made out of humans and we have feelings, and we don't act all the same way all the time or only sometime, but nevertheless we still have the same traditions for the most part, and we feel in a certain way based on our genetic makeup. Oh, yes, I said it. So if you remember Serbia, let's put it Yugoslavia, forget about Serbia for a moment. Yugoslavia, right, was formed, and then out of many countries, like, you know, they created that myth of diversity is our strength. And obviously after some time they decided that, well, maybe it's not to stay together, but let's break up. The problem was and is that some territories that historically belong to you, you have, you know, certain population moved in and lived for hundreds of years on that territory. And little by little you may find that your nation is scarce in those areas. Well, if we use the logic of the West they use now because it's convenient on Ukraine, then yes, you know, what are we going to do in Ukraine? The problem is with Ukraine is that those territories where you have a majority of Russian population were never, remember that word that I say, never part of a Ukrainian state. They were part of a Russian state, Russian Tsarist state, but never as a Ukrainian state. And when they were given to form this Ukrainian state, they were given from other areas, from other countries. Those belong to other countries, other nations with other populations already in it. What I'm trying to say is, for instance, in the case of Kosovo, the territory, as far as I know, was Serbian. Now, in 1999, it was majority Albanians. Does it mean that that territory now belongs to the Albanians and they can vote independence? Because if so, then the guys in eastern Ukraine have more rights than those Albanians to vote their independence, because not only that they are majority in those areas, but the land they sit in never belong to the country they claim to own that land, which is Ukraine. Whereas on the other side, the land belonged to Serbia. It was populated by Albanians. It's like, for instance, here in the United States, which is not a good example because the United States is formed differently. It was formed by Western Nordic Europeans. That's how we started. We know exactly who started the United States and formed the United States. It was not the French, it was not the Romanians, it was not the Bulgarians, it was not the Russians. Okay, we know exactly what was the makeup of that country and what language those people spoke and what religion mainly was, you know, in this country and so on. So we can't play idiots. These guys now, they try to buffalo us into pretending that we're idiots, but we know exactly how this country is formed and for whom. I mean, it's right there. When they say Anglo-Saxon, you know what I mean. When they say Roman law, when you say the common law of England and so on, you know they didn't talk about Moses and they didn't talk about Abraham or what's his name, Allah and Muhammad and none of those guys. Okay, and I can go on and on with this. We know exactly what culture was here and what civilization. So, but now you have in this country, let's say in a certain area, you have a majority of, let's say, Romanians. In a state, let's say Michigan. In Michigan, let's say all of a sudden you have 80% Romanians. Are they entitled to vote their independence all of a sudden? Regardless, it's the right of self-determination, people's self-determination. Can they do it? Under any circumstances? Because you're going to say, well, just a second, but there was about ethnic cleansing over there in Yugoslavia and so on. Even if you take that into consideration, would that give Even if that occurred over there and whatever happened, would that give those guys to say we're independent? I don't think so. I do not think so. So the same, but if that would happen in the United States, if the Romanians would do that, I'm pretty sure the Romanians would be fucked. That's the word clearly. But maybe if it would be another minority of different kind of ethnicity or race, probably that would be acceptable. Who knows? Nowadays, white is black, black is white, up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left, fat is thin, thin is fat, and so on. You don't. It depends what they want, and they will judge the matter according to their interest at the moment. And then the next morning or afternoon, they can use a different logic for the identical situation if the interest dictates. So good job, Serbia. Serbia shows this national conscience, and they do not forget the 1999, which I think it was a big shock to realize that Western countries that, yes, we people in the Eastern Europe looked up at the Western countries, and we considered we fell for the bullshit of free world and all that. But better than over there, yes, in some respect better, but still way low and disappointing to the idea and public relation that was sold to us and continue to sold it as being exceptional. No, no. All you need to do is just have a little bit of attention span, memory, and look into patterns. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.